we are going to have a studio discussion about remittance flows. Now, around the world, they are set to plummet more than $100 billion this year, depleting a vital source of funding for developing countries as they struggle with economic chaos triggered by the pandemic, according to the World Bank. Now, last year, remittances overtook foreign direct investment to become the biggest source of capital inflows to low and middle income countries for the first time. They accounted for about 8.9% of GDP in poor countries in 2019. However, with lockdowns in various countries across the world, it has become harder for migrants to send money back to their families. Here to discuss how this development is impacting developing countries like Ghana is the Project Assistant for Migration and Development at the International Organization for Migration, Eric Kwame Akomeni. And it's great to have you in studio. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping safe.
I'm keeping safe. Thank you very much,
All right, so that's quite an unencouraging report, I should say, from the World Bank. So let's begin, first of all, by telling us the size of the remittance flows to Ghana in this context.
Okay, so thank you very much, and once again, good evening to our viewers. I would probably want to start off by helping us have an understanding of what remittance means when we talk about remittances, because for IOM, which is the UN-related agency responsible for migration, when we talk about remittances, we're looking at personal transfers that migrants make to families left behind at home. So this is the context within which we are having the discussion about remittances to Ghana. And this is a major source of funding in terms of lifting people out of poverty.
Right.
When we look at the size of remittance flows to Ghana, it's been increasing steadily. To be frank, we had started around $117 million in 2007, and this had increased until it reached its peak around $5 billion, just under $5 billion in 2015. Following 2015, there was marginal decrease, but this had picked up again. So we're seeing consistent increase in flows, hitting about $3.8 billion in 2019.
Right.
So this is the size of money that we actually...
So we are told that all over the world you're going to lose around $100 billion. Can you maybe estimate how much we're going to lose here in Ghana, do you think?
So I think the 100 billion and over that was projected by the World Bank was for Sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
Because then there's a much bigger figure looking at the global remittance market. So for Ghana, where we are receiving about 3.8 billion, we are looking at close to 23% shortfall in that volume that we receive. So if you convert, because the World Bank projected that for Sub-Saharan Africa, we're probably going to see around 23% decrease, between 20 to 23% decrease in flows. So 20 to 23% less 3.8, if we are to maintain the inflows at 3.8, then that is a huge sum of money. And what does that mean? Because this also means a lot for the migrant sending household, because it means about 23% loss in funding for education. We're looking at nutrition outcomes for children, which are financed by these remittances. We're also looking at impact on possible savings for the households, because study that IOM had done in 2016 actually saw that remittance contributed to increasing household income, nearly increasing household income. So if you're looking at this shortfall, then there is a huge impact on migrants sending household, and this is what it means for Ghana.
Is there any recovery in sight? I mean, this maybe largely depends on how long we go with this coronavirus pandemic, right?
Yes. To be frank, we are all not very sure where we are going with regards to coronavirus, but then the World Bank from this study projects that we're likely to rebound in 2021, but then that will be very slow. We're looking at around 5.1% increase from 2021, but there should be a lot of efforts on our part as a country to make sure we leverage and accelerate the process towards this. To be frank, Ghana was lucky to have benefited from a EU support under some of the projects that we do, where we had done a review of the remittance market in Ghana and put forward some set of recommendations on how Ghana could leverage remittances for development. Because what we had seen in Ghana is that mainly remittances are used for consumption. So monies are coming in, but families are using it for consumption. Ghana Statistical Survey, with support from IOM, had done a study, a pilot study, and had realized that less than 1% of the remittance inflows are used for savings. So with support from the EU, we have done a study and come up with a set of recommendations, which we believe now is the time to move forward towards implementation of those recommendations to help us minimize the impact of this.
Can you tell me a bit more about the recommendations that you have made?
Yes, so for instance, the study that we had done had projected that by 2025, Ghana was going to see a full digitization of the remittance market because Ghana had been on a certain drive to digitize the remittance space. With as new payment systems law, we had a lot of effort in terms of interoperability, and we're driving towards digitization. So what we see is that with this impact of COVID, we're likely to slow down the process towards digitization of the remittance market. What this then means is that it could possibly lead to an increase in the cost of sending remittances.
Right.
Because already Ghana is doing around 7.8% in terms of sending remittances if you are sending the first $200. And if we are not able to maintain the process of digitization, which provides a much cheaper option to send money, then we are likely to see possible increase in the cost of sending remittance. What does that mean? What this means is that migrants that are sending remittances back home are going to lose a portion of the amount they are sending home. And don't forget, your migrants are not the very rich migrants who are sending a lot of money. They probably may be the very poor ones. They may be those that are working hourly to send $100 back home and what have you. What it also means that if the cost goes up, what we have seen from our study is that the lesser you send, the more you pay in cost of transaction. And then it means the migrants are going to suffer the most. Also, maybe if you can permit me, what we've seen is that Ghanaian migrants spend the first few years of their journey in paying back monies they had used in their travel. So what it means that with a higher cost in transaction, possibly, potentially, they're going to probably spend more to pay recruitment agencies here that facilitate these trips and what have you.
And one last question, what do you think is the key learning for us? And as you have said, a sizable amount of our population depends on these remittances.
Yes. A major learning for Ghana will be that we need to think properly how we engage the diaspora. One approach would be to look at banking the diaspora, which is a major policy issue we have put forward. To look at strategies, a campaign that will look at how the financial institutions here could help bank our diaspora. We had done a very good project last year with a year of return, and there's a lot that we could leverage from. Secondly, we also see that there is a lot of talking that needs to happen around the table with the major stakeholders that work on the remittance space in Ghana. The Bank of Ghana, the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President, the Financial Sector Division of the Ministry of Finance. They need to sit and talk among themselves and look at how we carry forward a set of recommendations that have come out from the various studies that have been done so far.
Thank you very much for your perspective this evening. Great to have you in the studio.